for joining the EarthCraft program's first ever virtual Lunch and Learn on light commercial. My name is Jennifer Fundora. I'm the program coordinator for EarthCraft here at Southface Institute alongside EarthCraft's program manager, Amelia Godfrey. As people continue to log on and join the webinar, we'd like to go over a few housekeeping items since we're in a virtual space. As you can see, when you enter, all participants will be muted to reduce any background noise while the panelists are presenting. So if you haven't muted yourself already, please do so now. If you have any questions for the panelists or are experiencing any technical difficulties, please put your questions in the chat box, either to me or to Amelia privately or on the group if you have questions for the panelists. If you would actually like to voice your questions during Q&A, please raise your hand with the raise hand function on Zoom, and we'll let you know when you're unmuted so you can start talking. For the participants that are not presenting, we ask that you turn your videos off during the webinar. This is a lunch and learn, y'all, so we're not requiring the audience to be filmed while you enjoy your lunch if you're eating. And finally, the presentation is being recorded and will be shared with participants once the event ends. So if there are no questions in the chat, and I don't see any, I'd like to welcome my colleague, Amelia Godfrey. She's the program manager, to kick us off with the history and some more information about the EarthCraft program.
Yes, good morning, or I guess good afternoon, and thank you to everyone for joining us this afternoon for lunch. I really appreciate all of the interest we've seen in the EarthCraft Light Commercial program. I'm just going to, for those of you that are not familiar with EarthCraft, it is a building certification program that is partnership between Southface Institute and the Greater Atlanta Home Builders Association. It was first established in 1999 as a single-family program specifically, and over the years it has evolved to include buildings such as light commercial, which is why we're all here together this afternoon. It is a voluntary high-performance building certification program. It follows a lot of the sort of similar requirements as other certification programs. We've got some building efficiency requirements and indoor air quality requirements and third-party verification. We're excited to kind of share today what our light commercial program has been up to this past year. So if you want to learn more about EarthCraft in particular, these are all of our sort of certification pathways. We've got certification options for single-family homes, for new construction, as well as renovation. We have multifamily program also for new construction and renovation projects. Our light commercial program, which we'll go into a little bit more details after in about a minute or so. And then our sustainable preservation program, which is specific to historic structures. And then our communities-based program, which encompasses all construction types within a community design. So either a planned community or within a community of homes and workplaces or single family and multifamily buildings that are then able to connect within a larger community within their design. So a little bit more about Southface. That's where Jennifer and I work out of, and it is where EarthCraft is housed administratively. This is our main campus in Midtown Atlanta, and specifically wanted to highlight our Eco Office, which is the building on the right that's got the green roof. This was our very first EarthCraft light commercial project, and it is a showcase facility that is sort of evolving with the years as we get better at commercial building efficiency and indoor air quality and other technologies. In a non-COVID year, we do professional tours, so hopefully we can bring those back next year. We are also in the process of developing an online tour. So if you're interested in sort of seeing a showcase facility of all the different types of opportunities there are around high performance building and commercial spaces, feel free to check out our office. Again, it's the Eco Office, and hopefully we can get back to doing in-person tours, and then coming soon, there will be an online tour of that facility. And then just a little bit about the house that it's attached to. That is our original campus, and that is the first EarthCraft house. So that was finished for the 1996 Olympic Games, and it was a showcase project when the Olympics were in Atlanta. And it can also accommodate tours if you want to learn more around sort of high performance building design in residential structures. That one is more of a private type tour that has to be requested specifically, but we do like to show it off. It's got some cool design features that are pretty timeless. And just in general, within our campus itself, the campus is designed to capture and reuse all of the rainwater that hits our site. So we've got some interesting site design as well that we like to showcase whenever possible. About the EarthCraft Light Commercial program, it is specifically designed for buildings that are 50,000 square feet or smaller. So we're trying to capture the sort of more typical commercial structure in our region. We don't find that there are the larger commercial structures are very impressive. They're a little bit harder for us to do some of the testing that we like to do, but that we find that the average commercial space is actually about 50,000 square feet or smaller. And we wanted to make a commercial program that would fit the more typical commercial project in our region. And that is how sort of the baseline for how we came up with EarthCraft Light Commercial. There are pathways within EarthCraft Light Commercial for if you're building a new structure and you're also going to be fitting it out. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today with what W&A did to some extent. They were working with a existing shell. We also have a certification pathway for the fit out of existing buildings. If you have a more finished structure that you're going to be moving into and you want to make sure that the systems that you're going to be putting into it meet high performance standards. And then we also have a core and shell pathway if you are going to be building a structure for lease and you want to make sure that the core of that building meets high performance standards. So we got a couple of different options for commercial buildings. We also, our sustainable preservation program, which we're not going to talk about as much today, but it can accommodate commercial buildings as well. If you are going to be working with an existing historic building that has to accommodate historic preservation guidelines. And one of the things that makes EarthCraft Light Commercial unique from some of the other more common commercial certification programs is that we do require third-party verification of all of the building components and systems. We've got our technical advisors online today to kind of talk about their role in the EarthCraft Light Commercial certification process. But for those of you that are familiar with building envelope leakage testing, that is something that all EarthCraft certifications do require. And it's something that is particularly interesting and fun to do in commercial buildings. And then we also have requirements around duct leakage testing as well. So in addition to some of the more traditional documentation verification that you'd find in every certification program, we also like to make sure that EarthCraft third-party verification, we call them technical advisors, go out on site and verify that the building is being constructed in a energy and water efficient way, and also going to be constructed in a healthy way with consideration for indoor air quality. So if you want to learn more about EarthCraft Light Commercial, this is the link to our website specifically for EarthCraft Light Commercial. And then also you can, through our website, earthcraft.org, you can learn more about becoming a certified builder. The EarthCraft Certified Builder program includes access to webinars such as this one, as well as other trainings. Southface and the Greater Atlanta Home Builders Association like to partner up on different opportunities for trainings. So it's not just coming from Southface, it also comes from the Greater Atlanta Home Builders Association if you are working in the residential market. All the trainings offered through them include builder CEUs. And then Southface will also offer light commercial or multifamily type trainings, such as the one today. And so that is one of the benefits of becoming a certified builder, is you'll be connected with those training resources. And then also you can, through our website, find certified technical advisors who can help you certify your project. So all EarthCraft projects have to connect with a certified technical advisor. Again, these individuals are third parties, and they are going to be the technical expert helping your project through the certification process from design all the way to completion. And you can learn about the builders and technical advisor training and responsibilities, again, at earthcraft.org. All right, and just a little bit about W&A Engineering, if you are not familiar with them. They are a multidisciplinary engineering firm headquartered in Athens, Georgia. They also have teams located in Augusta, Monroe, and Nashville. And what we're going to be highlighting today is their recently completed office in Athens, which is very exciting. We got to visit it at the beginning of this year and go on a tour, and they have been a great team to work with, and they have put together a video that we're going to show to provide sort of a virtual tour of what their new building looks like. And then also afterwards, are available to answer some questions about their process in completing EarthCraft and tips and other advice to give to people who are considering building certification programs in their own facilities. And so we've got a bunch of people from the project team that are on the call today, but specifically their CEO, John Williams, is on the call. And then also the technical advisor who's on the project, Jeremy Field. And so they will be available to answer questions about specifically the project. And then, so hopefully as you're watching the video that I'm about to show, if you have any questions, again, like Jennifer said, please type them into the chat box. Or if something comes to you during the question process, you can always raise your hand. So I'm going to escape out of this really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. And I'm going to start a quick video for everyone to enjoy.
And as Amelia gets that set up, just a reminder to mute your mics if you're not talking, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat or raise your hand and we'll come to you and I'll unmute your mic.
All right. So here is a video that W&A has put together to highlight their facility, and I hope you guys all enjoy it.
W&A Engineering's new corporate headquarters is located in the Southern Mills Complex, an adaptive reuse of the historic, circa 1908 Southern Manufacturing Complex. W&A rehabilitated 50,000 square feet of one building that is part of the 160,000 square foot complex, which is comprised of 4 separate buildings, and creates a campus-like setting in Athens, Georgia. The Southern Manufacturing Company was founded in early 20th century by some of the city's most prominent businessmen and served as a catalyst for early economic development in the area. The manufacturing facility has been home to several different forms of manufacturing throughout the years, but the most prominent was Wilkins Industries. W&A's rehabilitation is part of a larger effort to revitalize this historic complex. The remaining buildings are currently under construction to create Class A office space for future tenants to occupy. W&A was the first in Athens and the second in the Southeast to qualify under the EarthCraft Light Commercial Fit-Out category. Areas addressed to achieve this certification include high-performance building envelope, exterior lighting to reduce light pollution, diversion of construction waste from landfill, recycled building materials, water management and efficiency, indoor air quality management and pollutant source control, energy-efficient interior lighting, water heating, and appliances. W&A Engineering performed the civil engineering, traffic engineering, landscape architecture, and land surveying work necessary to complete this project, and continues to serve as the lead civil engineer and construction administrator for the redevelopment of the Southern Mill Complex. W&A was also the first to market in the Solarize Athens 2.0 crowdsourcing campaign. Our purchase of 40.7 kilowatts of renewable energy provides a total energy offset of 49%. W&A's purchase, combined with the amount of solar purchased by Athens-Clarke County's unified government, brought costs down to Tier 3 pricing for all participants, 50% of the total discount the community was able to achieve.
Nice, thank you. Thank you to W&A for taking us on a virtual tour of your office. I know in person that would have been pretty cool, but I think it did a pretty good job encompassing the work that you guys did on the office certification. A special shout out to Priscilla and to Amy from W&A for putting in the work to get this professionally recorded for this tour and this lunch and learn. So thank you so much. Before I open up the floor for questions, if the folks from W&A Engineering, Emory Ratings, or any of the people on the project team want to add anything else, please feel free to unmute your mics and let us know.
I just appreciate you guys including us in this. I think it's great, and we're really happy to have the opportunity to share with your viewers on this virtual tour or virtual lunch and learn. You know what we've learned throughout the process, and you know how proud we are to have come through y'all's program and now be in our office and functioning. So really grateful to the whole team, Jeremy, you know, JD, and our architects, and then what Amy's done and Priscilla's done as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank John for including us in this. It was great to get back with John after I think we started our careers together a couple decades ago, and then got the call from you about EarthCraft fit out, and I was very interested. And also like to give a shout out to Laura Case with EarthCraft. I think Light Commercial was, you know, her brainchild, and she was very instrumental in helping us with the technical support that we needed to get this certified for W&A.
Absolutely. So I do have some questions to kind of get us started out, and I'm going to ask the first one to John, and if there's anyone else that wants to chime in from W&A. But we just kind of wanted to talk about, how does the EarthCraft program fit in with your company's specific sustainability goals? We know that that is a priority within your company in particular that we think is awesome, but also just sort of how you fit that into your overall business strategy and within your overall company culture, and how you kind of made that work within your facility itself.
Well, I mean, obviously we're dealing with the environment all the time. I mean, we're civil engineers, landscape architects, land planners, surveyors. So pretty much everything we do has an effect and an impact on the environment. You know, the people that we employ have a sustainability background, very many of them coming out of the engineering school and the landscape architecture school. You know, it's one of our 5 values as a company, and we believe that, you know, if we live our values, that our clients, you know, will appreciate that, and will find like-minded people to do business with us. So one of our values is social responsibility, and under that falls sustainability. And, you know, I can't really think of a better way to kind of put out there that we're on the front end and we want to be cognizant of sustainability issues than to have our office be a place where we were very careful and considerate about how we work through it. And, you know, our employees, when we surveyed them a year before we ever started going into the office, and really well before we considered EarthCraft, you know, one of the main things they wanted to do was try to do an adaptive reuse for our company. So that just I mean, we had, you know, at least a half of our employees mentioned that in an employee survey, so that we weren't going into another greenfield situation, but reusing something that was there. We're just really fortunate that this mill opportunity was available to us through a longtime friend of mine, and then we feel like that. If I'm going to sit in this chair and I'm going to talk about commitment, accountability, and resourcefulness, and expansion, and social responsibility, then we gotta put our money where our mouth is to some degree, and show our employees that that's the expectation that we have of them, not only to attract better and new employees, but also to let our clients know that's a place where we're coming from.
Thank you. And I see Aaron Hope has raised his hand. So I'm going to unmute you, Aaron, if you've got a question. So hang on. Sometimes it takes a minute.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I have a mask on. I'm in the field. Just a quick general question about EarthCraft. Was this more of a pilot program? Are you guys looking to expand it regionally, nationally? What are some of the ideas behind what you guys want to see happen over the next decade or so, or a couple of years?
Yeah, thanks. This was not a pilot. This was, we've got a couple of other EarthCraft projects that have happened in the Metro Atlanta area, as well as within the city of Decatur. EarthCraft's focus is on the southeastern climate zones. We're particularly trying to find solutions around how to achieve high performance buildings within a hot, humid climate. Knowing that particularly with ventilation and within HVAC in general, that can be difficult when you're looking at very airtight building envelopes. And so EarthCraft has always been focused on keeping the concentration of our knowledge in the Southeast. And we have builders and projects that go up the East Coast into Virginia. And so that's kind of what we're looking at now. EarthCraft Light Commercial is our youngest program, I'll say. So it definitely has a lot of opportunity for expansion and growth outside of the Atlanta, Athens area. So we're pretty much just only in Georgia, although we do have projects that are in Richmond, Virginia as well. We have a partner organization out there that also is doing some light commercial work as well. And I've got another question from the group. They wanted to know about what the project did for sustainable landscaping. If you have anything in particular that you guys had to focus on with that.
Well, I mean, that's one of the interesting things about this. And we really had to work. We were very fortunate, I feel like, that EarthCraft started this light commercial kind of at the time that we were considering doing this, because we're in a situation where we have a condominium form of ownership at the mill. So there's multiple tenants here. And yes, our company did the land plan and civil engineering and some of the landscape architecture around the outside of the building, but we didn't have control of that at all with regard to how our space was finished and built. So we had to, we could suggest things to the owners of the mill that they might want to do, but we couldn't really push everything that EarthCraft wanted us to do onto all the other tenants of the building. We kind of had to focus on our space and stay in our box. And I'll just say that as far as I know, EarthCraft may be this particular certification may be the only certification, green building certification, that really allows us to do that in a way where we can kind of control our own destiny. So we did things. I mean, the old mill, obviously, we had to go back and capture some water quality and detention that wasn't being done before necessarily on some of the site. But there were trees that were planted. I mean, kind of your standard fare for redevelopment, but that wasn't really part of the EarthCraft certification because we had to focus on our four walls and not, since we didn't have control of the rest of it.
Sorry. And a question just came through, and it was one that I was going to ask already, so I will just go ahead and ask it now. At what point, just from your experience, and also this is kind of for Jeremy, when is the best point to introduce building certifications into your development project?
Way before we did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, John gave me a call, and I think we had a lot of the design already ready, and so we had some good back and forths regarding program requirements, costs, and working with lowercase. But certainly, I think Mike B just put in there as early as possible. I mean, it certainly is paramount to at least take program requirements and what the overall goals of the design and mix them together as early as possible. But one of the aspects that I wanted to mention, the question from Aaron about EarthCraft is, I have Amelia on speed dial, as well as lowercase, and a direct relationship with people that administer that particular program, which is geared towards the Southeast. And it certainly is a great resource, and helps us get answers to John and Grail and W&A, the GC and designer on this project, in order to get those those details worked out, and maybe some compromises made to some of the things that we needed to make sure that we're adhering to the program standards as opposed to the budget. So we worked it out to where we're meeting the intent of the program design here. But certainly, yeah, I agree, John. A lot earlier than we started.
There were pluses and minuses too, though, and let me say that one of the things that we were able to do, because I mean, honestly, we had talked about looking at trying to get a certification done. I didn't want to go through the lead process. I knew it was going to be really difficult with a historic building. We thought we were going to be dealing with a lot of historical tax credit issues. Those kind of went away. So when we refocused on trying to get a certification, like I said, I mean, there wasn't really one we fit into. And then we found this EarthCraft when we were really far along in our design. And in fact, I already had pricing. I mean, we were done. It was permitted, completely done. We had pricing. So the upside is I know exactly how much it cost me to go back and do the things that we weren't already doing. Now, some stuff we were already doing that we already had in place. And so those were easy boxes to check. And then the other thing I'll speak to in EarthCraft, I hope I'm representing you well, and this is okay. But I saw a question pop up just a second ago about how did we treat the exterior building envelope, because they didn't see it being furred out and insulated and stuff. And this is where I truly believe that EarthCraft was the best fit for us and should be considered and going forward for buildings like this, is that they had the ability to kind of move with us and do what we needed to do to meet that intent. Because there was no way, I wasn't going to cover up this 120-year-old brick inside the building. I mean, that would have killed the deal if EarthCraft would have said we had to do that. So we were able to do some other things. One of the big things we did was put solar on the roof. That wasn't a requirement for EarthCraft, but I feel like because we were doing that, our EarthCraft advisors, Jeremy, were able to work with them and say, hey, we're doing this better. We can't meet this. We're doing this. We can't do this. But we all work together to get it sorted out and come up with something that I feel like EarthCraft really was proud to certify, and we were proud that we went through the process.
Yes, I mean, so kind of on that question, we did recognize that this was a historic building, and that's where we have a lot of lessons learned from our historic preservation program, or sustainable preservation program, around the unique considerations of historic buildings. I know Jeremy can also talk a little bit more about kind of what the maybe challenges were with turning a historic shell into one that at least is airtight, because that's always fun. But that the EarthCraft program does have some areas that are strict guidelines, and then other areas where we do seek to meet the intent of the program as opposed to a like hard line item in a worksheet, the way that I think larger programs have to, because they have much bigger administrative burdens than our little office does.
Yeah, and to expand on that just a little bit with regards to the tight shell, is that yeah, we all kind of agreed that it'd be terrible to cover up the brick, because that was actually exposed at the time, as it was a warehouse. There was no plaster over it, so it was certainly a historical feature. And so by taking precaution to maintain that look, but also to ensure that we had proper air sealing around the existing elements. The bricks are never really that tight, so we had to tuck and point a good bit. And I think one of the comments, if Dwayne was here, and any other GC or air sealing contractor that's worked on an adaptive reuse or an existing building, they probably ran out of caulk and foam at the local suppliers, and had to pull it in from elsewhere. Is that they used a tremendous amount of air sealing materials in order to gain the performance aspect of the building from an air tightness aspect, and it actually met the new requirements, the new construction requirements. So along with all the air sealing and the additional insulation that we installed on the roof, the storefront windows also met the U value and solar heat gain coefficient values. So we improved the envelope a good bit, but in order to maintain the historical aspect of the building, we felt that was worth some trade-offs.
Yes, and I don't have to resort to my questions, because questions keep coming in. So the question about energy modeling or performance testing required for ECLC. Energy modeling, so EarthCraft has pathways in all of its programs. They're prescriptive or performance. So you can opt either to do an energy model pathway to show your energy efficiency goals, or you can follow a more prescriptive checklist. I believe this project shows the more prescriptive path. And performance testing is required on all buildings. That's where the envelope leakage testing was done. I think there was a picture of a blower door that was set up, and as well as verification on HVAC systems to verify tightness of those as well. So it depends on sort of which pathway you choose in your sort of certification goals. And let's see, I have another question, and this might kind of touch on what you've already talked about, but what was the most interesting challenge that your team faced in achieving certification in terms of meeting the requirements for EarthCraft? What was perhaps something that you weren't expecting to have to do that you had to work into your original plan?
I mean, I was always concerned about whether or not we'd be able to pass the vacuum test or the blower test.
Me too.
And I think that I think what we came to with EarthCraft was that, hey, we're going to inspect every little thing we're doing and show y'all every little thing we're doing to try to pass this test. And if it doesn't pass, it's because of the seepage and the brick and stuff like that. And everybody was going to be okay with it. But I really wanted that. I mean, I wanted it to pass. And I think they went over and above, for the sealing and the caulking, like Jeremy said, with the foam and stuff, way more than we would have gotten normally. And beyond that, I mean, we met I guess the fresh air dump was the other thing that we had difficulties with. And most of that was a function of, one, not being able to do it ahead of time, but two, because we did so many solar panels on the roof, we didn't have room for another separate fresh air dump. So we met those, we met the energy code requirements and the building code requirements for fresh air, but I think, we didn't have that separate fresh air system that was recommended for EarthCraft. And that's kind of where that give and take came in on the solar versus that. That's the two things that stick out in my mind. Jeremy may have something different.
Yeah, I would certainly, we were all kind of nervous. I mean, as our roles as EarthCraft technical advisors is to provide those mid-construction inspections with either before we hang drywall, or in this case, before we get down to the end of the building, or before we get too far into the air sealing scope of work. And so we actually came out 2 or 3 times during the process to identify several locations that we thought you might have some air leaks, and you never know until you turn the blower door on. And there was no way, if you saw some of the before pictures, there's no way to run a test on this thing beforehand, because it was pretty much in the elements, so to speak. But we decided, even though we were meeting the testing requirements, we kind of identified. I mean, a lot of the leaks actually came from the systems that were penetrating through the top of through the roof, and so those are kind of natural for the system that we needed to have in place there. And I'm sure that there were some other small leaks that scattered out this large space, ended up adding up. But having this new flat roof installed, along with our air sealing work that done by Grail and their contractors, were certainly meeting and exceeding my expectations.
And we did add the EarthCraft required insulation and stuff on the roof and all that. So there's the majority of that heat gain, heat loss through the roof of the building. Even though this is a really old building, it's got, I'm sitting here looking at, I guess, 2 by 8, 2 by 6, 2 by 8 nominal size boards up top, and then we got the sheet insulation, and then the membrane system above that. So.
Yes. And Jeremy, how many times did you have to come out and test?
Just once. Only one time. And I don't know, John's team likes to burn the midnight oil. I think they kind of, we made them close down the office and get out at 6 o'clock one evening. And, I didn't get too many scowls from anybody but John. But no, we told everybody to kind of get out, with the exception of a couple people. We used only needed 2 blower doors to get our 75 pascals of pressure difference. And, between myself, Luis Emery, the owner of the company, and John Viney, another instrumental part of Emery Group, we were able to do it relatively quickly. And then we were kind of like, oh, well, we met it. That was kind of a surprise the first time. So it was very nice. Very nice to have success the first time.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to ask another question mostly to John, but are there any EarthCraft mandated requirements that you would recommend be implemented in sort of non-certification projects that were things that you weren't considering but would be something that you would recommend for all buildings?
I mean, I think the easy one, right? I mean, and I gave a presentation on this to another group, and it's like, there is a cost associated with this stuff, and it can be expensive. And we were very fortunate at the time to have, some extra dollars to be able to make this happen. The payback, it's a little longer term, but for us, we felt it was the right thing to do for our culture and our office. But there's a lot of really simple stuff too that doesn't cost a lot. I mean, whether it's the multiple stream, recycling / demolition, where we had to do that really wasn't an expense. I mean, with technology today, the LED lights, the automatic on-offs when you're leaving the offices, just the hot water at the spigot. I mean, we ended up installing the water fountain bottle filler, stuff like that. I mean, that's not going to get you all the way there, but it's a step. And those things like that, I feel like most people would be able to, if you're building a $1.5 million building, I mean, you can afford to put in LED lights and automatic cutoff switches and do some of those basic things. So that's just kind of my take on it.
Yeah,
Like low VOC paint. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. Like, I don't know why anybody would not use that, unless it was a really special application. So stuff like that, I think that, really good to do.
And I was certainly going to mention those occupancy sensors. I get very frustrated with commercial buildings that are lit up like a candle at night. But certainly occupancy sensors. I mean, those things are relatively no cost or even a break. But certainly, the advantage that you had with your with the building starting off with was the natural lighting coming from the tremendous amount of beautiful old windows. We had to upgrade those, unfortunately, because the older ones had deteriorated so badly. But certainly, any kind of automatic control to help us dumb humans be able to occupy a building is much better than none at all, and very, very low cost.
Great. And I actually have an answer that was given to us from the architect, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us on the call, but just to share their answer for anyone else from another perspective. The architect on this project said that while most of the EarthCraft mandated methods are worthy to consider on all projects, the indoor environmental quality particularly is essential to consider. With the amount of time that occupants spend indoors, their health, comfort, and productivity should be a primary concern for design and construction professionals. The EarthCraft methods ensure systems are operating as designed to provide occupants good indoor air quality. These steps of building commissioning, such as third-party testing and balancing and extensive air flushing prior to occupancy, should be considered and implemented on most construction projects. And here's a question that just came in for John. The cost to implement is no. What is the expected simple payback period? What is it once you take into account the marketability advantages?
I mean, that's the big question, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it's pretty easy for me to tell you that this payback period on the solar, is around a 20-year payback. Although, we were able to increase a little bit of our tax credit stuff because of some structural upgrades and things we had to do for the roof, but it helped some. But solar is about a 20-year payback. And then, for the things that we did in here, if you're just looking at like the energy use versus the cost, I think you're going to be disappointed with the, we're not, I mean, yes, we're saving some water with low flow fixtures. Yes, we're saving some electricity with cutoff lights. My guess, I mean, it may be in the 30-year range from that. So I think you got to take a step back and say, does it, can I get an extra 50 cents a foot for renting this building? It's an unusual situation that we're talking about in this case because I own the building, I rent it to my company. So, I mean, it's not, I didn't change the rent when we decided to do EarthCraft. But I mean, I think you could, if you could get an extra, we were at $18 a foot here. So 5% of that's an extra 90 cents a foot, I guess. And at that point in time, you start talking about a payback of 10 years, maybe something like that would be what I would say if you could get an extra 5-10% rent.
Okay. Well, that is all of the questions that have come through. If there's nothing else, I want to thank W&A and Jeremy Field or Emory Group, again, for helping us put this together, particularly for the video. I think something has.
These are the two questions.
Yes. Besides square footage, what other criteria exist for eligibility to participate in the EarthCraft Light Commercial Program? There are so many categories of uses that are neither residential nor industrial. I think this is Jay Bauman, sorry. The most of it is square footage, and then also it has to be lit and heated. So those are the two big ones for entry. And then everything from there is looking at if it's historic building or if it's new construction or if it's a fit out, working through that. But we do require that there at least be heating and cooling in the structure, and that it be lit, and that it meet those size requirements. And then from there, we work with the project. So we've had, this is a traditional office that has certified. We've had some retail that has certified, as well as I believe a pet store or a pet daycare that also went through the program. Not looking necessarily at industrial uses, but definitely commercial uses that fall under this program. So yes, churches and public buildings also would fall under. We did have a city office building has certified EarthCraft Light Commercial as well. And so the last question, and then I'm going to let everyone get back to work, is since Light Commercial is our newest program, what has EarthCraft or Southface learned? How is the program likely to evolve? I will say probably our biggest challenge within the Light Commercial program has been HVAC. There are still traditionally HVAC systems are not ducted the way that we are pushing buildings to be. This project did have ducted systems. A lot of projects really struggle with that, particularly ducting their HVAC returns, and that can create a lot of challenges with meeting the certification requirements. We found that in commercial buildings, ventilation is not as big of a conversation point as it is in the residential market. So that is more of just looking at what strategies is the project already planning to do. But typically a lot of projects come to us and they're not planning to duct their returns. And that is a huge challenge, but one that we feel is important to keep talking about within this market, especially right now, as we're finding that filtration and cleaning of air in commercial spaces and workspaces is very important. So hopefully people are coming around more to the idea of thinking more intentionally about their ducted HVAC systems. So this might be a good year for that lesson to be learned for everyone. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn with that. But that is something that EarthCraft Light Commercial in particular probably is the most challenging conversation that we have to have within the program. And I will say that more often than not, projects find a way to make it happen. So there haven't been too many projects that have said, no, we're not going to do this. And then from there, it's just trying to encourage more office buildings to think about occupant well-being kind of the way that W&A has in terms of the environment that people are working in and how it impacts overall health and well-being. So that is another sort of key conversation point that we try to have within the EarthCraft world. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you to everybody. This is being recorded, so we're going to share it if you want to share it with anybody else that wasn't able to make it today. And if you have any other topics that you would like us to cover, please feel free to reach out to us within the EarthCraft program, and we will be happy to try to make more of these happen for you guys, because we love to engage with the larger community. So thank you all for joining us during your lunch period. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye.